The Daily Deal is 100% local. Find these amazing deals only at dailydeal.bakersfield.com.
This segment of Open Up is brought to you in part by Abeta Weed, the locally owned company that has everything you need for lush, weed-free gardens and lawns, from the smallest backyards to the property of the biggest businesses, and with top quality equipment and products better than the big chains, and they service what they sell. Located on Rosedale Highway, just east of Callaway, across from the promenade. Be loyal, buy local, abetaweed.com. Boy, yet, buy local, keep that money here at home.
Yes, and Don, you know what? Speaking of local, Nature's Fruit Market and Juice Bar.
Oh, boy.
Delicious
Great people.
drinks. We had some this morning, and everyone enjoyed it. And I'm drinking the Kangen water. So 2000 H Street right here in Bakersfield, across from the Fox Theater. Wonderful people committed to our health, so please visit them.
Boy, our previous guest, who's sitting just off camera here, Joanna Reed, says she goes to swap meets and finds plant. No, yes,
And repurposes
and
it.
repurposes them. So they're all kinds of stuff. Robert, you had a story you were about to tell us,
Yes.
and then we want advice for businesses.
Okay, well, let me say that the last venture did is that my partner, Jay Dolly, says, go to Phoenix, and there's some land there. I want you to see about buying this land or getting it for a swap meet. And we had a swap meet there in the convention center for probably a year. And so we went down there, and here was 48 acres on I-10 right next to 48th Street, next to Mesa, I think, or whatever the next town was. So I went down and talked to the guy, and so I leased it. I leased the land, 48 acres. I can remember now. I leased it for $300 a month for the first year, $600 a month for the second year, and $1,400 a month for the third year and on. And so we started building this thing. It was called Swaporama, but it was called the Phoenix Showgrounds. We had a big old cactus out in front and put in a real nice facility there, kind of U-shaped awnings out there and a nice big entrance into it, because we wanted to have concerts and not only the thing. So we had that. And we were about ready to complete the job, and he got a person to come out that owned the La Mirada Drive-In Theater to come out and put in the snack bar. And they said, oh, we'd be happy to, but we are not putting a dime in that if you got it leased. And he says, you got to buy it first. So my friend Jay says, well, go see if you can buy it. So I went back and talked to this guy, and he'd become a good friend. And he said, well, how do you want to do it? I said, well, can we just change the lease into a sale? He says, yeah. So I bought that 48 acres for $300 down. Oh. And now they've torn it down and built a high-rise there. But we had a great operation there in Phoenix for a long time.
And Jay Dolly, I heard the Los Angeles Times quoted the Wall Street Journal that Jay Dolly was the king of swap meets.
Well, at that time, that he was. He was the president of the corporation, and I did all the work. He did all the glory. But Jay had an idea man. He was an idea man. I was the go forth man. I did the work, and he done it.
So that's one of the secrets of business, I take it. You need an idea, the visionary, and you need the guy that puts the vision into practice.
Yeah. Well, I always called, yes, John, and I always called myself a man Friday. Somebody says, Jay would say, go do this. I didn't have to ask him, well, how am I going to get there? Do I need a pencil or a pen or what? I just go do it.
Right.
He wanted to go into a chicken business in Mexico one time. Go do that. I went down there 3 or 4 times and come to find out it wasn't feasible to do because the feed source was not steady.
Robert, I would suspect of you that if Mr. Dolly had said, do this kind of pencil and that kind of pen, you wouldn't have done it because you were able to use your creativity to make it happen.
Most of the time I was gone out of his sight, just doing it and call him about it. But in reference to your question about advice, our previous guest says, do the handwriting, do all of the stuff, the preliminary stuff. find out how much it's going to cost to do this, because like in advertising, you can't just go say I'm going to do it, because advertising is costly or can be costly, and where are you going to do it? I remember I started doing on TV, just little spots at that time, but those spots then were like $50 or $100 a shot, or newspaper. And but keep a record of what you need to spend. Write it down and try to keep it within that.
Track every penny.
Track every penny, because if you don't, it'll eat you up. And then watch your employees.
Watch your employees. Robert, I saw an article in the newspaper in Phoenix that quoted you as saying, anyone can do this. You still feel that way today?
If they're honest about it, yeah.
Okay.
If they're honest and put forth the effort, they can do it. But in reference to swap meets, there's something that you have to have. You have to have the facility to do it. That's like the drive-in theater is good because it's bordered. It had a snack bar. And fairgrounds are good. You can't just go out and have an open field, because people can come and go, and you lose your cost of your thing and income. You can't be in the dirt. That's just not good. You got to be
be able to get down and dirty.
Get down and dirty. So,
Well, the fairgrounds is kind of down in the dirt.
well, but they oil it. They keep it
Okay.
oiled so that it's not dusty and it's not trackable.
I see.
So, but you need that kind of facility to be able to control what you're doing. So, because you charge for the admission to get in of every person, and you charge the tables for the sellers to come in there, and then you got snack bars and food vendors inside. So, in reference to that, just make sure that you put down everything that you're doing.
And so someone who's watching out of all over the world, and starting here in Bakersfield, though, that wants to do something, earn some money, they can just go and clean out their closet and start there.
Absolutely.
Sounds like a kind of a glorified yard sale. I mean,
That's what it is. The only thing is, in reference to that, is that the swap meets are bringing in people because of their advertisement. So you get, like out here, you probably have 10,000 people a weekend coming out here to do that. In La Mirada, we had 30,000 people on a weekend. I mean, the Highway Patrol wanted to shut us down because we were having so many people. But that's where the business comes in. You're doing that. You're supplying the people. They're supplying the product, and it's good.
What else would you like to share with us about your experience with Swap Meets, Swaparama?
It was a great time. It was a great time. I can remember my little daughters. One time we went to Corpus Christi, Texas, and we had a station wagon with toys. And here were my two little daughters, I think about 10 or so, and 8 maybe. And they're sitting out there selling stuff in the swap meet.
Wow.
And I was running around, managing, if you want to use that term.
So you were teaching them early, huh?
Yeah.
we've got a few minutes left, and I want to change subjects, if I may. I think we've covered this.
Okay.
Tina and Robert Miller are about to fly from here on the West Coast to Washington, D.C. to do an extraordinary bit of help at the National Prayer Breakfast. The National Prayer Breakfast is the annual event held at the Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C. The president always attends. It's kind of his event. 4,000 people from all over America and all over the world, some of the highest dignitaries come. And these two really welcome all of those dignitaries from abroad. They sign them in, and that has to be an amazing experience. Share just a bit about, you're meeting presidents and prime ministers and diplomats from all over the world and every country, and you're kind of the face that, oh my gosh, his face welcoming America.
Yeah.
But
No, I tell you what, it is exciting. It's long hours. I mean, it's like 12 hours a day you're doing. But we volunteer to register the international guests, and these are people outside the United States. And the procedure is that the person who welcomes him in says, "Here's Robert and Tino," or somebody else, and and you take them and to a little table, offer them coffee, or be polite to them and say where you're from, and get their little passport and everything, and one will go get your tickets and their whatever things, the events that they're going to. But a couple of years ago, we met a guy named Lord Hastings. Lord Hastings was a lord from London. He said, "You know what a lord is?" I said, Not really." He says, "Well, a lord in the House of Commons, they're elected for a period of time and they get paid. A lord is appointed for life and they never get paid." I didn't know that. That's like our Senate and our Congress. And then we talked for a while, and he says, "We'd like to go to London sometime." He said, "Well, come on over. I'll show you around." And I got to thinking, I wonder if Dianne Feinstein would show me around. No, I mean,
Well, you're here in California with her, Robert.
I'm in California with her.
Yes. And Robert, we did meet the Israeli permanent ambassador to the United Nations,
yeah.
along with so many others we've met. But they don't come to us with that name. They come first name basis.
Yeah.
And so they're not trying to exalt the titles or anything of such, but
Just a
everyone's
person.
first name. Yes.
And we had some great times there.
Yes, and I am so thankful. Okay, you want to continue on this subject, or we've got about 2 minutes.
You've really met some incredible people. Just tell us one or two of the people that you've met there and experienced and befriended, and suddenly now you have friends in Israel and elsewhere. And
Yes, Don. Wow. We met.
there's
The
a UN ambassador, I think
Yeah.
you told me.
Yes, and we've met several ambassadors from Africa and so on. But one that comes to mind, we met the grandson of Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And he stood so tall and kind-hearted. And then we also met a group of people from another African country, and Sudan. Some things were going on there at that time, but and Haiti, just not long after the earthquake. Just so many others.
Well, you've got adventures ahead, don't you?
Yes.
And
thank
when do you leave?
Sunday.
This weekend.
And it's on Tuesday, correct?
Thursday.
Thursday, next
Thursday.
Thursday. Well, we'll be thinking about you, and
Thank you.
You'll be part of a historic event.
Thank you, Don.
Well, coming back, we're going to talk about posture of all things and its impact on health and what all this tweeting and bending over at our computers is doing to us. So we'll be right back.